With the holidays upon us, it's easy to feel pressure to get everything done and make everything appear perfect. But for many people, the most wonderful time of the year can cause anxiety and even be a potential pitfall for people in recovery. Carolee McGrath sat down with Amy Conklin, the clinical director of the Mental Health Association's GRIT residential program, and Alane Burgess, who runs their Bestlife clinic, to learn more about how people can make it through.
In our program, we have 14 men, most in early recovery from substance use, also struggling with mental health issues. And so I think what we're really focused on with them is helping them prepare for the things that they might encounter during the holidays. I mean, the holidays can be really stressful for all of us, and especially in early recovery, it poses some challenges and some trying to figure out new ways to cope with feelings and emotions and relationships and all the things that people are sort of exploring in a new way in recovery. And then helping them navigate that and figure out, really what they need and how to be prepared, to think about ahead of time. What are the situations I might encounter? What are the feelings I might feel? What are who are the people I might see? What are the ways that I have to set my own boundaries to be okay? And I think what we're really trying to help people do is to think about ways that they can cope with all of those things, to really reflect on the things they've learned already, and to really stick with that through the holidays. There's a lot of different things, events and challenges. There's drinking can really be a part of what is wrapped around a lot of gatherings. So helping people to find new ways to celebrate,
right,
and to stay close to those routines that they know really work for them, that help them stay safe, and to know that it's okay to set some boundaries, and say, maybe I can't go to that event this year, or maybe I have to just do it this way this year to be okay. And I think in terms of in the program, we're also creating new traditions and ways to celebrate in the program as well.
And GRIT is residential.
It is residential,
yeah. So obviously there might be some parties, family parties or friend parties, that they might just want to say, listen, I'm going to have to hold off. Maybe we'll get together after the holidays, or maybe I'll meet you for a coffee, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Or is there a way, is there someone I trust that I also know that really understands my recovery and my process that could come with me, or could be, be a support for me, or could help me help be there for me and really gets where I'm at.
And when you talk a little bit about, people maybe thinking about new traditions and then the ways to approach the holidays, with the Bestlife clinic, how do you advise people to approach that, to kind of do what Amy said, but really put a plan in place that works for them?
Yeah, so it's a lot about people just maybe not having too many expectations. It's because things do change, and especially as changes happen even within family systems, as people get married or people get divorced or people have children or people even have adult children who leave the home. A lot of times things can change. So it's about just looking at what's really important for you for the holidays, not having a lot of expectations about other family members, because unfortunately we may not be able to change them or things that they're going to be doing, but looking at what can we do to make new traditions, or maybe even being flexible in having to tweak around certain traditions. So as I was just saying, for the adult children who may no longer be at home and may be living elsewhere, it may be needing to share pictures or doing Skype or doing FaceTime or sharing emails or other ways in order to be able to still connect through the holidays.
And you're talking a little bit about expectations too. I think everybody has expectations that it's going to be a Hallmark movie, and
Absolutely.
There's going to be snow on the ground and everybody's going to be happy. But obviously, walking into family situations, even though you love them, does not always pan out the way you wanted it to, perhaps.
Right. Absolutely. And I think the thing is, you're right. People put a lot of hype on that, it's the holidays. It should be a great time. It should be a glorious time.
Let's get along, right?
Right. And though it is important to definitely, if there are family dynamics, to try to put those aside for the holidays, there is still the real feeling of that we all have emotions and we all have raw feelings, and that it's okay that we feel any ways that we do. So if we're not feeling happy and we are feeling sad, or even if we're grieving the loss of a loved one who's no longer with us during the holiday season, it's okay, to take time away, to be able to cry. It's okay to take time away to not feel so good. but also to not isolate, and please to reach out and make sure that there is somebody who's supportive for you. So whether that's a close friend, a significant other, a family member, even if they can branch out into their community, if you're involved with church, if you're involved with other activities or areas in the community, anywhere that you can go to reach out, to not be alone and to not isolate would be very important.
But that can be incredibly difficult in itself, right? You don't want people to know that you're sad, and you don't want to maybe share those feelings. That the more you start talking about them, the more emotional you get.
Right. We try to teach our guys at Grit that the connection is the most important thing, and it's okay to connect. You don't have to be happy and joyous, right? To connect. That finding a place where you can be with people, even if they aren't people you know well yet, or even if it's that connection becomes incredibly important, and especially around the holidays when, if I'm missing some of the things, the way things used to be or the way relationships used to be, if I'm missing that and maybe I'm not able to have that right now, at least I can find some connection with other people who understand.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about self-care as well, because that's got to be important really for everybody, no matter what you're dealing with, because there are deadlines and there are things to do and there's lists that everybody's trying to check off. And you mentioned expectations. Again, those expectations get to become, overwhelming. How do you help people or encourage people to try to stick with, what has always worked for them?
Yeah, so it's very important. If somebody is in a specific routine that they have, it's very important to stick with that routine. So if somebody, for example, goes to the gym, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, it's important to continue doing that. If somebody attends meetings 3 times a week or calls their sponsor if they're in recovery, very important, to continue with that connection as well. You don't want to stop doing things that you do on a day-to-day basis, even your medications as a regimen. If you are practicing a certain diet, food, to try to stick with those regimens as well. And to take 15 minutes every single day for relaxation and rejuvenation, to do something for yourself for 15 minutes, take you away from any distraction where you don't have to think about all the holiday pressures and all the holiday stress, but just be with yourself and be able to be in that moment where you can engage in meditation or relaxation strategies, or again, something like going to the gym, something that feels good for you.